Okay, let's get started. So I just want to take a moment right off the bat and say welcome, Cohort 14 Baccalaureate Scholars. Before we get too far into the weeds about the scholarship, I want to just take a moment and say congratulations to all of you. This was a very competitive application cycle. You were selected because the WSOS Board of Directors, industry leaders, and Washington State elected officials believe that you are the future of Washington. You earned this scholarship because of your academic success, your interest in pursuing a high demand job in STEM or healthcare. We are honored to be here with you to support you on your academic journey. We cannot wait to help you navigate college and launch your STEM or healthcare career. So thank you for being here. It's super exciting, and I love seeing all of your faces. So to give an overview of our agenda for this evening, we'll start by going over some meeting norms and expectations. I'll introduce members of the WSOS team who are on the line. We're going to give you an overview of the WSOS programming that's available to you in addition to your award. We have two current scholar leads who have joined us to share their experience. And then we'll jump into more of the nitty gritty. So we have a few slides dedicated to how financial aid fits in with your WSOS scholarship. We will deep dive into everything you need to know about your funding. And then we will go into scholar responsibilities, how to maintain your eligibility in your scholarship. And we'll wrap up by looking at our WSOS eligible majors list and letting you know everything you need to be aware of to keep your scholarship. So for this meeting, a few things that I want to highlight. This meeting is being recorded. Feel free to stay off camera if you're more comfortable. We are going to ask, since there are so many folks on the line, that you stay muted throughout the presentation. And we may, if people come off of mute by accident, we may have a staff person just mute you just so that everybody can hear. We do encourage you, though, to use the chat to ask questions as you have them. But please take care that you are not individually chatting with a member of the staff. Sometimes people do that by accident. And we want to make sure that any questions are in the general chat for the meeting so that any of our staff can answer them and voice them over. After each section, our team is going to voice over some common themes, so questions that we have seen come up from a couple of different folks. If we are not able to answer your question live, you can send us an email. We are happy to follow up, make sure that you have an answer. And then last but not least, we will email a link to this recording later this week. We will also include a link to a survey, and we ask that you fill that out so that we can learn and improve for next year. So this is just a handful of the team at WSOS, but I wanted to introduce those on the line. My name is Jillian Lewis. I am the Baccalaureate Awards Manager. We are also joined by Leanne O'Connell, the Awards Administration Director, Faye Alarcon, our Awards Officer, and Haley Schaefer, Associate Director of Programs. These staff people may be answering questions in the chat. They may also be coming off of mute at some points during the presentation to share information or answer questions. All right, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Haley to talk about programming.
Yes, thank you, Jillian. And hi, everyone. I just want to echo Jillian's congratulations on being a part of this scholarship. We're so excited to have you and excited for your education journey. So I'm going to highlight some programming opportunities that are available to you as WSOS scholars. We like to say here that WSOS is more than just a scholarship. We have a lot of opportunities for you to engage with both us at the org and also each other and a lot of our corporate partners as well. So I'm going to talk through some of these things, and then at the end, we'll have an opportunity for you to hear from some current scholars. One thing I do just want to highlight before I go into any of this, all of our programming is optional. So it is not a requirement of your scholarship that you participate in these things, but we do encourage it because we think it has a lot of value. So the first thing I want to highlight is our Scholar Lead program. So this is our peer mentorship program that pairs new opportunity scholars, so you all, with more experienced opportunity scholars, often at your campus, to provide support throughout your first 2 years in your opportunity scholarship time. So in your first and second year as a scholar with us, you will get assigned a scholar lead. So this is someone who's in their third or fourth year of school, who's likely at your same college or in a similar major to you. And they're there to be a support and a peer mentor to you throughout the year. So they're your go-to if you have questions about your scholarship, if you have questions about programming, or you just want to get some advice from someone. They're people who can help you know what resources are out there, either on your campus or through WSOS. And they're there to help build community and make you feel like you've got someone that you can go to who's been in your shoes and knows what this experience is like. So our scholar leads are awesome. We'd highly encourage you to consider being a scholar lead later on in your journey through the scholarship. But I want to really encourage you all to connect with your leads and utilize the support and the resources that they can provide. And again, you'll hear from some of our current scholar leads in a few minutes, and they can share a little bit more about their experience. So we can move on to the next slide. So I want to highlight another one of our signature programs, and that is our Skills That Shine mentorship program. So this is a industry mentorship program that pairs opportunity scholars with an industry professional. So this is available to you when you are in your third year in school. So if you have questions about your year, you'll get more information on that from the awards team. But in your third year of the scholarship, you have the opportunity to sign up for Skills That Shine. And this is a year-long program where you will pair yourself with an industry mentor, and they are there to support you, to help you navigate upcoming thinking about jobs, thinking about applications, thinking about developing your resume and cover letter, helping you build your network and know how to network, and just provide resources and support. So again, this is an optional program. It will likely be relevant to you all a little bit later in your education journey, but wanted to make you aware of this and highly encourage you to take advantage of it when the time comes. We can move on. So then the sort of third big bucket of our programming is our career development programming. So we have a lot of partners throughout the state with corporations. And these are companies where you all might work one day. And they are often very interested in creating opportunities for WSOS scholars to engage with them. A lot of these are tours. We provide a lot of opportunities for you to go on tours of local facilities, to attend career panels and hear from people in a specific profession or a certain industry on their advice and their tips, and to answer any questions you may have. So we have a lot of opportunities that come up throughout the year, and they are open to all scholars of all grade levels. So again, want to really encourage you to take advantage of these opportunities as they come available. We know of a lot of scholars who have made amazing connections and who have found jobs or internships or various opportunities through the WSOS connections that they have. A few other things I'll share is we have a WSOS specific job board. So this is a place where we've curated job and internship opportunities for WSOS scholars. And sometimes there are WSOS specific opportunities. Like, for example, there are a couple biomedical internship opportunities right now that are only open for WSOS scholars. So we really try to build relationships and curate opportunities for you all to take advantage of. All right, and so sort of the final piece to the puzzle here is this is a lot of information. There's always a lot going on with WSOS, and we get a lot of this information to you all via email. So you will receive a monthly newsletter from WSOS that has lots of information in it about career events, important WSOS deadlines and milestones, links to jobs or internship opportunities, and other resources. So you'll probably hear this a lot today, but pay attention to your email. A lot of important information comes from it. And I just want to really encourage you all to take advantage of this programming and really make the most of it. Again, it's optional, but I think there's a lot of value for you if you were to pursue some of these things. So that is it from me in terms of talking about the programming. I want to take the opportunity now to introduce you to two current scholars slash scholar leads. In fact, some of they might have be recent grads too. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but Charles and Eduardo are here. And Charles and Eduardo, in just a second, I'd love for each of you to introduce yourself and just share a little bit about your education journey, who you are, what you majored in or are majoring in, what maybe your career plans are, and then your experience with WSOS. So what programming did you participate in? What was your experience like as a scholar lead? Yeah, so I will turn it over now. Maybe let's start with Eduardo and then we'll go to Charles.
Hi there, it's nice to meet you guys. So my name is Eduardo Mata. I recently graduated from Washington State University about 2 weeks ago, funny enough. And a little bit of my background. So I grew up in Wenatchee, Washington, so local to the state. And I interned with, as you can see, repping the merch, but I've been interning with Grant County PUD for 2 years. And officially right now, I'll be a transmission line design engineer. So that's pretty exciting, but focusing more on WSOS. So with that, I've been a scholar lead for around 2 years, almost 3 years now. But I think one of the most important things, just from my experience, I would say overall, it's really important as a program, just being able to help you shape yourself and kind of help build connection with students. Because I feel like as you've noticed going from like the freshman through senior year path, it's kind of important to kind of learn from sometimes the things you've learned from or learn from some mistakes and kind of passing on that knowledge to like future students.
Thanks so much, Eduardo. Any like tips or advice that you'd give folks coming into the scholarship at this point?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is building those connections. Like a lot of times it's gonna happen as a scholar. You're not gonna get those responses you want. But I think it's important to just keep going at it because I think what happens eventually, especially towards like the end of the year, you'll be getting a lot of texts and emails from students saying, "Hey, I know I haven't reached out to you in a long time, but I want to build that connection right now." And I think it's just important making sure you kind of like constantly remind your scholars that you're there for them regardless of like when they reach out to you.
Yeah. Yeah, so you all will have a lead as you come into your first year. And so again, something to consider down the road is potentially applying to be a scholar lead once you're a little bit further on in your journey. And then you get to help scholars. Thanks so much for sharing, Eduardo, and congrats on graduating and your new job. That's very exciting. I'll pass it over to Charles now.
Hello everyone. Sorry, my computer with my camera has died, so I am working off another device that doesn't have a camera. But my name is Charles Gnu. I attend St. Martin's University, and I'm going into my senior year. I am currently a scholar lead, and then doing scholar lead again for this next year. Um, and I study mechanical engineering and have a concentration in intelligent and dynamic systems, and then start my master's in computer science next year. Um, Other than that, I would say for advice or tips or some things that I've also participated in within WSOS would be skills and shines, and of course scholar lead, and then also some of the events that they have. I think the events that they have are really fantastic, especially if it's within your major, also without your major. It's just another way for you to connect, because I think connecting with others is really valuable and something that some people don't realize or emphasize on, but it's another way that can lead you to gain opportunities to success, that can lead to an internship or just a good relationship you've built with someone else. And then advice, it would just be similar to what Eduardo said, which is just value those connections that you make. And then from there, try to strive to make new connections as well. Don't stay kind of in the same group, but try to branch yourself out there.
Thanks so much, Charles. That's great advice, and congrats to you on going into your senior year. Thank you both, Eduardo and Charles. I appreciate you being here and sharing a little bit about yourself with the scholars. That kind of concludes our time here to talk about programming specifically. We're going to get into a lot about the scholarship itself, but just want to kind of conclude by saying thank you so much for being here, for listening. Want to encourage you again to participate in programming. You'll hear a lot from us in the coming months and year, so feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And then if you have programming specific questions, feel free to pop those in the chat and we can answer them as you all ask them. All right, back to you, Jillian.
All right, thank you so much. It was great hearing from you, Eduardo and Charles. So I'm going to move on. Our next section is a brief financial aid overview. And the purpose of what we're about to discuss is really just familiarizing you with some of the common terms with financial aid that you are going to hear throughout this presentation and then into the future in emails from us, because WSOS is just part of your financial aid package. And so it's important to understand how we fit in with financial aid. That said, this is not comprehensive. I think I only have about 3 slides on this. So I would encourage you, if you do have detailed questions about your financial aid package, make sure that you check in with your financial aid office early and often. So the first thing I want to introduce you to is this concept of cost of attendance. Some of you may be familiar with this, for others it might be somewhat new, but cost of attendance, or COA, is a price, it's a sticker price that is set by your college. They're calculating all of the expenses that go into attending college, so beyond just tuition and fees. So cost of attendance usually includes things like books and materials, living expenses, including rent and food, transportation, childcare, perhaps study abroad costs, and other expenses as may apply to you or the area that you're living in. Something to note about your scholarship is that it is intended to be used for these expenses that go into cost of attendance. If you do use your scholarship for things outside of cost of attendance and you report that scholarship as income, it will be taxed. So we just want to make you aware of that. We trust you. We trust that you are using your scholarship as it's intended, but it's important to be aware of the implications of that. So this is a visual of how WSOS, your scholarship, fits in with the other financial aid you are likely receiving. In this example, we have a scholar, Eva. Her cost of attendance is a little over $35,000. So again, tuition, fees, and then those other expenses that go into the real cost of attending college. So she's receiving other grants, loans, work study. She has Pell Grant, she has Washington College Grant, and then maybe she has another scholarship as well. But that still leaves her with $2,000 in unmet need. So that's where WSOS comes in. We are meant to be last dollar in, so your financial aid office will package you so that our dollars come in last and can bring you up and support you up to that cost of attendance. Just mentioned unmet need, and that is an official financial aid term. And it's important that you're aware of that because to receive your WSOS award, you must have unmet need in your package. The way that your financial aid office is going to calculate your unmet need is by taking your cost of attendance. They will subtract your student aid index, which is a number that is produced when you complete the FAFSA. They will also subtract any other financial aid that you are receiving, and what you're left with is unmet need. So again, you're eligible to receive up to a certain amount from us every year, but there has to be room in your package or unmet need for you to actually receive that scholarship. So what we really strongly encourage you to do is just review your financial aid award level in detail. Every college, it looks a little bit different, but it should spell out what your cost of attendance is. It'll show you the different scholarships that you're receiving, your award package, and make sure that you understand how WSOS is fitting in with the rest of your financial aid package. If you have questions, you can also always check in with your financial aid office to make sure that you're making the most out of your scholarship and understand the resources that you have available. So I'm going to pause here. In a moment, I'm going to be going into quite a bit more detail about the award amount that you'll be receiving and how that money is sent to you. But I do want to just check in and see, Faye, have there been any questions that we should voice over?
There's a couple coming in right now, but I'm trying to consolidate some of them. We're getting some questions asking, in order to utilize WSOS aid, do students need to first take out loans or anything like that to be able to access our funding is one thing that we're getting.
No, you would not need to take out loans in order to access funding. In the example that I showed, that particular student did have loans, but that is not a requirement for WSOS.
We're also getting a lot of questions related to cost of attendance and if a student meets their cost of attendance, if they're still able to continue renewing their scholarship.
Yes, absolutely. We would, and we'll talk more about what it means that our scholarship is renewable and what you need to do. But if you exceed cost of attendance for a given term, that's okay. You will maintain your eligibility for the scholarship. You also, depending on the college that you are attending, your financial aid office might have a process for appealing or trying to increase your cost of attendance. So that is something that you could definitely look into. You just want to reach out to your financial aid office. Okay. I think we will continue to work through questions. And again, if we don't answer the question live, we will definitely get back to you. But I'm going to move along to our section where we're going to go into a lot more detail about your award. So this is probably the burning question that you all have. How much funding are you actually going to get? So you are eligible to receive up to $2,500 per year from WSOS until you've been accepted into your eligible major and submitted an award increase request. So more on that later. Once you have submitted that award increase request, your award will double. So you will be eligible to receive up to $5,000 the first year after approved. That will automatically increase the following year to $7,500 before dropping back down to $5,000 in the third year after being approved. You can check your scheduled disbursements anytime in your Scholar portal, and it'll show you exactly how much you're eligible to receive. And toward the end of the presentation, I'm going to walk you through the Scholar portal so you know where to find that. And it's important to note that when I say up to $2,500, that's just because of things like cost of attendance, where we can award you $2,500, but there has to be room in your financial aid package for your financial aid office to actually transfer those funds to you. So another common question, how much funding do I get? To receive your full scholarship amount each term, there are a few things that need to happen. The first is that you need to meet your school's satisfactory academic progress policy, or SAP. SAP is defined by every college, and there may be differences between colleges, but generally it means that you're maintaining a minimum GPA, usually a 2.0, and you have to pass a certain percentage of the credit hours you attempted in a given term. So here again, definitely make sure that you meet with your financial aid office and understand their SAP policy. If you are not meeting SAP in a given term, we will be notified, and there will be a refund sent for that term. So it's important to understand the policy and make sure that you are meeting it. Additionally, as we said before, you have to have unmet financial need. And then last but not least, you need to be enrolled in at least 12 credits. If you are enrolled in fewer than 12 credits, but more than 3 credits, you'll still get an award, but it's going to be prorated. So that basically means that, say you are enrolled in 6 credits instead of 12, you will get half of the award that you're eligible for. When this PowerPoint gets sent out, you can visit this link. It gives you an actual calculator where you can see exactly how much your scholarship award would change depending on the credits you are enrolled in. But just note that if you are enrolled in fewer than 3 credits, you will not be eligible to receive funding for that given term. So I mentioned earlier that this scholarship is renewable. What's great about that is that means you do not have to reapply every year, but you do have to maintain eligibility. And we will talk a lot more about that. But as long as you maintain eligibility and complete some milestones, you are eligible to keep receiving funding until you have earned your bachelor's degree or have received the maximum award amount of $22,500, or have been enrolled for at least 12 semester or 18 quarter terms. So that equates to about 6 years. Important here is that if you have ever received the Washington College Grant, the terms that you received the Washington College Grant before starting with WSOS will count toward your total term count. So if you were a college freshman, you completed 1 full year of college in 2024-25, and you received the Washington College Grant that whole time, then you would start with a term count of 3 before continuing on with your WSOS scholarship. If you're not sure, here again, checking in with your financial aid office, they can let you know exactly how many terms of Washington College Grant funding you have earned. So how do you get your funds? We are packaged along with the rest of your financial aid. So we notify your financial aid office during the summer of the award that you are eligible to receive each term. Every term, your financial aid office is going to check that you have met the eligibility criteria. They will check to see how many credits you are enrolled in, confirm that you're meeting SAP, all of those fun things, and they will determine how much of that award you are eligible to receive. They communicate that to us, and then we send the fund to your college financial aid office. They will then transfer those funds into your account. I know I sound like a broken record. If you ever have questions about the status of your funds, reach out to your financial aid office first, because they will have more information than we do about why your award may be less than you anticipated. So here again, I am going to pause. Faye, anything that we should voice over?
We're getting some increase related questions. I know we'll go over that in a little bit, but we have some students asking how doing Running Start may impact their ability to start getting more money up front, or if incoming scholars now can access that increased funding.
Those are great questions. So if you meet the requirements for award increase, Now you are welcome to submit an award increase request, and if it's approved, you can start accessing that higher level of funding starting in the fall. So we will go through those details toward a little bit later in the presentation and walk through exactly what you need to have in order to submit your award increase request and how to know that you are eligible. But that's a great question.
We're also getting some more funding related questions in regards to SAI. So we have some students asking if their SAI makes it so that they have no unmet need. Does that mean that they can't utilize their funding? And for future years, if their cost of attendance is met through other means, such as SAI, can they still receive our scholarship?
Yep, that is a great question. If your college has determined that you do not have unmet need or enough unmet need to receive our scholarship, your best bet would be to check in, see if there's any ability to increase your cost of attendance for any reason. If you can't receive our scholarship in a given year as a result of your student aid index, we would still encourage you to renew every year because your financial situation will change in the future. And as long as you continue meeting our eligibility criteria, you could receive our scholarship in the future if your package has more room in it. I hope that answered the question. All right, I'm sure there are a lot of questions about financial aid. It's challenging and confusing. It also it differs depending on the college that you're going to, which is why some of the questions are a little bit tougher for us to answer. But we are here to support you. Feel free to send us an email if there's anything pressing related to your WSOS scholarship that you're not sure about. I just happened to see this question come in about if you're receiving Washington College grant at the same time, are you eligible to receive WSOS? Yes, you're absolutely able to receive WSOS. It's just that the timeline for our scholarship is tied to terms of funding that you may have received from Washington College grant before starting with us. But you can absolutely receive both at the same time, and there's not a problem with that. Okay, so I'm going to move on to scholar responsibilities. So this section has all of the required milestones, eligibility requirements, and forms that you will need to submit. It's a lot of information all at once, and I want to reassure you that we will be sharing information via email at different times in the year when it's more relevant to you. So we'll talk about some things that are going to be coming up in the spring. Rest assured, you will hear from us. We will be hosting information sessions throughout the year so that when it's more timely, you'll have access to the information. And also another plug for our Scholar Lead program. If you do participate and you're engaged with your Scholar Lead, they will also help you manage these processes and make sure that you stay on track. So we've talked about this a little bit. The renewal process is a required form that you must complete annually to receive your scholarship for the next academic year. This is not the same as the scholarship application. This is a really short form that you fill out in your Scholar portal. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to complete. You'll fill it out in the spring if you want to keep your scholarship for the next year. And really, you're just confirming for us that you are still eligible. So you will update us, let us know if you are changing colleges or if you're changing majors, anything like that. That's where you would update us as per the renewal process. You also do have to file the FAFSA or the WSFA every spring in order to continue receiving your scholarship. And we will email you when that form is available and send you many, many reminders as the deadline approaches. So the award increase request process, or AIR, this is a required form that you have to submit to double your award. But unlike renewal, this is something that you will only submit one time. It's both an eligibility check. We want to make sure that you have been accepted into an eligible major by a certain deadline. But it's also the way that you unlock the higher levels of funding. So every one of you has an increased deadline in your Scholar portal. It is there now, and toward the end of the presentation, I will walk you through where to find that. That is the deadline by which you must submit your award increase request. But it's important to know that you can definitely submit your award increase request before that deadline, and we would encourage you to do so if you are eligible. So to be eligible to submit your award increase request, you must first and foremost be admitted into a major that is eligible for your baccalaureate scholarship funding. This is different from being in a pre-major or an intended major. There are some majors where you can kind of formally declare that that's your major, and that is great. There are other majors, particularly some of the more competitive majors, that you will need to apply to and be admitted into in order to check off this requirement. So it's important as you are starting college, even though you may be just starting your freshman year, but understanding the requirements to be admitted into your intended major is important. It's never too early to plan ahead for that. So once you've been admitted into your major, the other eligibility criteria for award increase requests is that you have completed at least 60 semester or 90 quarter credits. This is a policy that's currently under review. Apologies for that. If you are close to the 60 semester or 90 quarter credit threshold, I would encourage you to submit your award increase request. We'll evaluate it, and we may extend flexibility if we can. But if this policy changes at all, we will notify you via email. So again, definitely submit your form as soon as you're eligible, and remember, this is mandatory. This is a mandatory milestone once in the lifetime of your scholarship. If you miss that deadline, your scholarship will be withdrawn. So make sure that you understand when that deadline is. So to submit an award increase request, it is a form that lives in your Scholar portal that you can access anytime. You'll also have to attach some required documentation. There's a letter that you will need to get from your college, and then you'll also need to provide an unofficial transcript. I'm not going to get too into the weeds on those requirements here, but on our website, you can learn everything that you need to know about award increase requests and the documentation needed in order to submit that request. And I will show you when I preview the Scholar portal where you can find that form. Okay, I'm going to go over just a couple more things related to your scholarship, and then we will pause. I know it's been a lot of information. But speaking of a pause, I wanted to share some built-in flexibility that you have in your scholarship called deferments. So a deferment is a pause in your scholarship. It allows you to keep your scholarship without actually receiving funds. So you are eligible to receive or to defer your scholarship for up to 1 academic year. So 2 semesters or 3 quarters. And what this means is that if for some reason you aren't eligible in a given term for funding, so maybe you're not enrolled or you're not meeting SAP, you have some flexibility. We will apply a deferment to your account. You will be able to continue receiving funds once you have, are back on track with eligibility and stay eligible. There are two different types of deferments. So there's one, an involuntary deferment. This is if we are notified by your college that you are not eligible in a given term, your scholarship will be deferred without you requesting it. So the three reasons why you might be in the situation are that you are not meeting satisfactory academic progress, that you are not enrolled at your college of record in a given term, or if you are enrolled in fewer than 3 credits in a given term. If either of these or any of these three are true, your financial aid office will let us know, and we will apply a deferment to your account. There are also situations, though, where you may know that you need to take a pause from your scholarship and you can request a deferment upfront. That is another form in the Scholar Portal that you will submit to let us know that you'd like to have us apply a deferment to your account. Something to note, it's the flexibility here is really, it's really useful for scholars, particularly if you are pursuing a very competitive major, because if you don't get accepted into that major on your first try, you may need to take an extra year, or maybe it's less than a year, maybe it's just a term, but you may need a little bit more time to be accepted into your major. So it's always helpful to save some of those deferments. If you can avoid using them up front, we would encourage that just so that you have a little bit of peace of mind as your award increase request deadline approaches. Okay, that is a lot of information. I'm going to pause and Faye, any questions that we should voice over?
We have a number of questions coming in regarding the award increase request, particularly with students who maybe did Running Start in high school and have completed an AA or are completing an AA and therefore will meet the credit requirement by then. Are these students eligible to increase their money?
Yes, the short answer is yes. When you submit your award increase request, you'll upload an unofficial transcript. If you are transferring, say you did 2 full years of Running Start at a community college, you can submit that community college transcript to demonstrate the 90 quarter credits. We will work with you as much as we can. If you need to provide more than one transcript, you can do that as well. We want to, where possible, kind of screen you in and help you through that milestone. That's a really good question.
We're also getting some questions from students regarding timing of award increase requests. So by what point this year do students who are eligible need to submit before so that that funding can apply
Yes.
for next academic year?
Yep, great question. The last Friday in June every year is the deadline for award increase requests. You can submit them at any time, but if you want it processed and you want the funding applied starting in the fall, we ask that you submit it by the end of June. I think the last Friday in June this year is June 27th. So try to hit that that deadline to have the funds applied starting in the fall.
We've also been getting a couple of questions if our funds can be used to cover housing if it's off campus.
Yep. Off campus, on campus, that is all included in your cost of attendance. And we don't need to verify that. Housing is definitely an allowable expense and used in the calculation of cost of attendance.
I have one more quick one. So can students receive funding at a community college instead of a 4-year university?
I love that question. Yes. I know that that part can be a little bit confusing for folks, but a lot of our scholars start at community colleges. And there are two different pathways. So if you want to attend a community college to finish some prereqs, maybe you want to attend a community college for one term and then transfer, that is absolutely fine and allowable. You will just update us either by email, let us know that you're changing colleges, or you'd submit a College of Enrollment update form, again, in your Scholar portal. There are also community colleges that offer applied baccalaureate degrees, and some of those are eligible for our funding. So you might be attending a community college where you could actually get that bachelor's degree, and that is allowable as well. So the key is just, if you are attending a community college, your end goal has to be to get that bachelor's degree, whether it's at the community college or by transferring to another four-year college. But great question. So I'm going to move on. I do have a kind of a recap slide here of scholar responsibilities, since I know that was a ton of information. But there are kind of 8 action items that you'll want to keep in mind as you move through your scholarship. So the first thing, you've heard from a few of us today, your scholar leads, and saying like you will be notified by email that something is going to happen. So in order to make sure you get that email, the first thing you should do is add our email address as a safe sender so that we don't get blocked as spam. Because if we can't reach you by email, it gets a lot harder to make sure that you are staying on track and getting our updates. Similarly, if your contact information changes, let us know. You can find the email address and phone number that we have on file in your Scholar portal. So if that needs to change, notify us immediately. The other really important thing to keep in mind is we can only send your scholarship award to your college if we know the college that you are attending, and we can't read your mind, and colleges don't let us know until it's too late, usually, that you're not enrolled there. So today, what I want you to do at the end of this orientation, or even during it, when I am giving you a demo of the Scholar portal, is check to see the college that we have on file. It'll be what you indicated when you accepted your scholarship. If that is not accurate anymore, you need to let us know. So typically that would be submitting a college enrollment update form. Right now, because we are processing acceptance and we're actually renewing current scholars, we don't have that form available. So you can just send us an email if the college is not accurate. Also, in the near future, review your financial aid award letter. Make sure that you understand how much aid you are eligible to receive. And then some more long-term requirements here. So make sure that you file the FAFSA or WSFA every year. You'll want to confirm that your intended major is offered at your college and is WSOS eligible. Complete the renewal form when it opens each spring, and submit an award increase request once you've been accepted into your major. Okay, so what I want to do next is take you into the Scholar portal. For those of you who have a computer handy or your phone, if you'd like to follow along and know your login credentials, you can scan this QR code. For those who may be reviewing this orientation after the fact, highly encourage you to bookmark this link so that you know how to access your Scholar portal in the future. Okay, Faye, can you confirm that you see my browser?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so if you follow the QR code or link, it will take you to our website. And there are a couple of bullets here that include a video tutorial. There's also a manual if you need help navigating the Scholar portal. You are going to log in with the same credentials that you used to accept your scholarship. Okay, so my view, what you're seeing right now, this is for a test account, so it doesn't have quite as much information as you will have in your Scholar portal, but it has most of it. So the first thing that you'll see when you log in is your scheduled disbursements. So you should all be able to see your scheduled disbursements for the upcoming academic year right now. You can see the college, you can see which term they are scheduled for, and the anticipated disbursement. If you were to do this math, you'd see this adds up to the $2,500 that we talked about as your academic year award. If we take a look at personal information, this is where you can take a look, see the email address and phone number that we have on file. Your mailing address is a little bit less important to keep updated, but definitely email address and phone number. We ask that we want to make sure we have the most accurate contact information on file. Okay, this page, this is where you can check and see what major we have on file, the college or university, also your Scholar profile ID. It's helpful if you're sending us an email, if you want to include your Scholar profile ID, that always helps us a little bit just to make sure we can find your information. But the big thing that I really want to highlight here for you is your increase deadline. So it's a little bit buried. We're working on it, but this is where today, right now, or after the orientation, make sure that you go into your Scholar portal and view the deadline by which you must submit an award increase request in order to maintain eligibility. If you submitted an award increase request and it was approved, you will also see that date right here. You can also check to see how many deferments you have used out of the 2 semester or 3 quarter deferments. And then we have a couple of tabs with some drop downs. So this is where you're going to be able to see the forms that we have talked about. We have a renewal form. This is the form where you can request your award increase. And then there are also some forms that you will receive more information about from the programs team at a later date. But this is kind of a one-stop for submitting required forms. This is also where you'll see the college enrollment update form once it becomes available. And if you're not sure if you have submitted those things, you can go into view requests and check to make sure that they have been submitted. So I'm going to pause again. Any questions about the Scholar portal?
Seeing anything particularly about the Scholar portal in the chat, just a lot of increased questions that we're slowly but surely trying to get to.
Can I clarify something that I saw in the chat? Is the login the same as the one they used to apply? Because there was a question about the login to the portal. I want to make sure it's correct.
I think it should be what they use to accept the scholarship.
To accept. Thank you.
Yep. If you're not able to access it, you can click the button that says forgot password and get that updated. Okay. Let me get back on track with the presentation. Okay, so really the final topic that we are going to discuss today is refresher on eligible majors for WSOS. This is something that we find there's often a lot of confusion about what makes a major eligible for WSOS funding. And so we want to take a few minutes, explain kind of what goes into creating our eligible majors list, preview some common pitfalls that scholars experience, and then we'll also just take a look at the eligible majors list on our website so that you are familiar with it. So to be added to our list of eligible majors, there are 4 criteria that a major has to meet. Most people understand the first, that to receive the WSOS scholarship, you have to be pursuing a STEM or healthcare degree, but it gets a little bit more nuanced than that. So we also have to have workforce data showing that that STEM or healthcare major leads to a high demand field of work in Washington State. And it also has to lead to a living wage after graduating with a bachelor's degree. So this is data that we look up every year, and we refresh our eligible majors list to make sure that it's the major leads to a high demand job and also pays a living wage upon graduation. The 4th criteria is that it has to be offered as a bachelor's degree at an eligible college in Washington State. So when you applied for the scholarship, you selected a major that was definitely eligible from our list. But it's important to understand that not every major is offered at every college. So even though you've let us know that you are pursuing an eligible major, make sure that you understand that if that major is actually offered at your college. Also, major names can vary depending on the college, and it can be difficult to know if your specific major matches the major on our list. So in order to know for sure, you need to request what is called a CIP code, CIP code from an advisor or a registrar at your college. When I preview our eligible majors list, you'll be able to see that every listed major has a CIP code designation, and that is the only way to be 100% sure that a major offered at your college corresponds to a major that is on our list of eligible majors. If the major that you are pursuing is not listed on our website and you've confirmed the CIP code with your college, then there are kind of 2 courses. If you believe that it meets all 4 criteria, that STEM and healthcare, STEM or healthcare, and leads to a living wage, high demand job, you can submit that major for consideration on our team. There's a form on our website that you can fill out, and we will research it, and if it's approved, we will let you know. If that major, though, is not eligible and it doesn't meet our criteria, if you decide that you still want to pursue that, you will be withdrawn from the scholarship at that time. So it's, again, important to understand and make sure that you check to make sure that your major is eligible. Okay, before I move on to preview the eligible majors list, Faye, is there anything we should voice over?
Catching up on the most recent questions we've been getting. So we're getting some questions about whether or not a student can change from the program that they initially selected when they applied for the scholarship.
Yep, great question. Yes, you can definitely change your major. We know that I think most university or college students change their major like 3 times. I think there's data that says that. So we understand that you might change your major. As long as you change to another eligible major, that is not a problem. You can update that via the renewal form in the spring, or you can let us know via email that you are changing your major. If you change to an ineligible major, that's when you would not be able to continue receiving your scholarship. Okay, anything else that we should talk about for the good of the
Thanks,
order?
Jillian. And do minors count?
No, it has to be your bachelor's.
Jillian, can you hear me? Sorry.
I can hear you. Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Minors do
Yes,
not,
I just got an internet unstable.
from my end.
My end.
Okay. All right, well, we will continue. We're close to the end of the presentation.
Jillian,
Yes.
do you want to address the question? There's several questions in here that are asking about. We have a lot of direct entry students. I don't know if you can address that really quickly between the engineering. I think engineering is the most common kind of direct entrance from into their major, and so whether they are eligible for increase or not into those majors.
Do you mind taking that? I'm having trouble keeping up. Is it, you're talking about a declared major or?
Yeah, they've been admitted, pre-admitted into their majors. And so are they eligible for an increase if they're pre?
If it's designated as a pre-major, like if you check in with your advisor, and it's listed as a pre-major, or sometimes I think they're called like conditional, where you've been admitted but you have to complete certain prerequisites, that would not meet the criteria for your award increase request. So the best bet in those cases would be to check with your advisor, let them know that, you know, for the scholarship, you have to have a letter saying that you are admitted into the major, and then they can guide you and let you know if you meet that requirement or not.
And then for direct admit students.
I do not know.
Yep, so direct admit students are eligible to apply. It would be case by case, and so it depends. I know some of you are automatically admitted into the program right away. Still need prerequisites. We will need you to complete your prerequisites and verification from your college, verifying that you've been fully admitted into the program, you meet all the qualifications. And so if you have further questions, let us know of your individual situations, but just know that yes, you can apply, but we will verify that before you've been approved for an increase.
Yep. And thank you. That terminology was not connecting with my brain in that moment. On our website, and in fact, I can take us there together so that you know exactly where to find all of the information about award increase requests. It goes into quite a bit of detail about what we need from your college in order to verify that you are pursuing an eligible major. And I think for a lot of you, that will help maybe answer the question. If you go to your advisor, you can give them a link to our page. We even have a sample template of the letter that we need. They will be able to fill that out and let you know if you meet those requirements. Okay, so I am going to move us onto our website. Okay, so the web page that you're seeing right now, this is the baccalaureate eligible majors list. You can get to it from a few different places, but the best way would be to start with the current scholars tab, baccalaureate scholars, and then you can see eligible programs and majors on the side. So what I want to highlight here at the top, reminders about what is required for a major to be eligible. This is the form that you will submit if you have a major that you don't see reflected on our list that you think meet the criteria. We will research that and respond within a week. There's also a definition of this CIP code that I told you we would need to verify for sure that your program is eligible. So this is the list. Oh, and I just noticed the zip code and major title got flip-flopped. We'll make sure that that's fixed, but the zip code is on the left. This is the classification number that colleges use to designate a major. And then this is the major title that we have on record. I mentioned earlier, though, major names vary by college. And so I want to give you kind of a real life example here so that you can see. We have a major called human biology. Okay. What is not intuitive about this major name is that at the University of Washington, this corresponds to a bachelor's degree path in anthropology. If you were to type anthropology to our list, nothing will pop up. And that's just because different colleges use different naming conventions. And we cannot capture every different major name by college. So instead, we use the zip code this would be the zip code where you would need to go to your advisor or registrar if you're in anthropology and say, hey, I don't know if this is eligible. What is the zip code? Then you would plug it in here. As long as the name correspond or the zip code corresponds, it's okay that the name is different. That's really, really common. So that's just a kind of helpful tip for how to navigate the eligible majors list, because it can be confusing and we don't want you to be surprised 2 or 3 years into your scholarship to learn that you're not going to be able to meet your award increase request deadline. Any questions about what I just covered with eligible majors?
And just taking a quick look at the questions we've been getting recently. We're getting a decent amount of more summer funding questions coming in around now. Maybe some students are joining a little bit later. So does the scholarship cover funds for this upcoming summer?
That's a great question. For new scholars, we start funding you for the fall. We can't set up your award in time for the summer. So unfortunately, no, we wouldn't be able to offer you funding this summer. In terms of future summers, we have been able to offer summer funding in the past, but that's not a guarantee. So kind of we will look this year. We have to kind of evaluate that policy every year in collaboration with financial aid offices. And we will let you know pretty early in the academic year if we'll be able to offer you summer funding. But more to come on that. Unfortunately, it is not an option for this current summer.
We also have a number of students who are saying that at their college, they are officially designated as a pre-major right now. Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's also a really good question. You will be able to work with your advising department to understand the pathway that you need to take for your intended major. As long as your intended major is eligible, you're good to go. being in a pre-major while you are working on those prereqs that will get you to that major. That's really common, and that is absolutely fine. We trust that you're doing your due diligence to understand the requirements needed for your individual major.
Got a great question from somebody. If a scholar were to switch to an ineligible major at some point, would they have to pay back any money to us?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, your scholarship is not, you don't repay it. So we do just rely on our scholars to let us know, like, as soon as you know that you are not pursuing an eligible major anymore, please let us know so that we can kind of use that funding for a student who is meeting the intention of the scholarship. But you do not have to repay it. Plans change. I certainly know that. I did not stick with either of the two majors I originally had when I entered college. So we're here to support you, and we're honored to be part of your journey. Just keep us in the loop.
We're also getting some great questions about whether or not psychology is eligible for the scholarship.
Great question. General psychology is not an eligible major. The reason for that is because typically the jobs that meet our criteria, so high demand and pay a living wage, you typically have to have a master's degree or sometimes even a doctorate in order to get into those jobs. General psychology, it just doesn't quite map to the kind of targeted occupations that we are trying to fill in terms of the workforce.
Thanks, Jillian. If a student is doing two majors at the same time, does that work for a scholarship?
Yeah, yep, just one of them has to be eligible. The other one wouldn't have to necessarily be eligible. I will say that we do sometimes get questions from folks who like earn a bachelor's degree and then they ask if they can keep their scholarship while they finish a second bachelor's degree. That would not work. As soon as you earned your first bachelor's degree, at that point you would be withdrawn. But if you are double majoring concurrently, that is fine.
We're getting a number of questions from incoming students at UW who are in the engineering like undeclared bucket. They are wondering whether or not they are eligible to submit an award increase request, if they're still technically in that designation as a pre-engineering student, but are guaranteed admission into a program at some point.
Yep, great question. No, you have to have actually been admitted and your status changed. So if you are a pre-major, even if you're guaranteed future admittance, that does not meet our requirements for the award increase request. Something that might be helpful right now, I did say that I would, do this. I will show you how to navigate to the information about our award increase request process. So this is on our website, the Current Scholar tab, Baccalaureate Scholars. Okay, if we look at keeping your scholarship, you are going to see information about the renewal form. Our very own Faye here created a video about renewal that you can view at any time. And then also there's a link to the award increase request information, award increase request requirements. This webpage has a ton of information. It goes into more information about what a CIP code letter is. We have another video from Faye. Goes into more detail about SIP codes. And then down in the resources section, we have a link specifically for UW scholars. There is a CIP letter that UW likes to use for those requests. And then if I scroll up, there's a letter/email template that you can provide for guidance. So it's all on our website. I would encourage you, once you've digested this information a little bit, to revisit and let us know if you have questions. Okay, so I'm sure that there are more questions rolling in. We do have a few more majors, or a few more minutes. What I'd like to do though is just, I'm happy to stay on the line and continue answering questions until 6:30. But for those of you who may be jumping off the call, this QR code does link to a survey. We would love to hear from you. Let us know how we can improve this in the future. And then I will be sending out a link to this recording once it's available, and I'll also email a link to the survey so that you can fill it out at a future time. But thank you all so much for joining us. We're excited to continue to get to know you over the next many years of your scholarship. For those who want to stay on and hear responses to questions, I'm happy to take some. Faye, I might just count on you to continue fielding those though.
Yes, I am starting to sift through lots of great questions coming in. Does WSOS know of any other funding opportunities available for students?
Ooh, there is a great web page. Maybe Leanne, if you could put it in the chat. That our folks at the College Success Foundation, they put together a website with different scholarships that are available, and I would recommend that you take a look at that.
I would also recommend that you take a look at your college website. Every college has normally a list or their own inventory of scholarships for students at their institution. So highly encourage you to look at those lists because they're pretty extensive.
Also got a pretty great question and detailed question in the chat from Nicholas. Jillian, if you're able to maybe scroll, if you can see the chat and scroll up a little bit, it's in regards to like just the timing of like depending on the length of a student's program, like how much funding they actually end up receiving from us in the long run, and whether or not if there is any if a student hasn't utilized their maximum funding,
Sure.
can they use it for a graduate program?
Yes. Okay, great questions. So we cannot award you outside of kind of the financial aid process. And what that means is if you are over awarded, you're receiving other aid, and that means that you don't have unmet need to receive our scholarship, you would not receive that. It does kind of go back to WSOS, to the general pot. We do get that question from folks like, I didn't receive the full $22,500. Can I cash that out at the end of my scholarship? Or can I apply that money to another degree? And unfortunately, the answer is no. There's some financial aid rules and regulations that we have to stick with.
Similar to that, if a student doesn't receive like their full WSOS award amount in a given term, maybe because they received some of it and then met cost of attendance for that term, what happens to the rest of the money? Does the school get to keep it? Does it just live off somewhere else? Does the student get to have it through direct deposit?
Yep. It comes back to WSOS. So it does not stay with the school. They do not get access to dollars that are kind of designated for WSOS scholars. But unfortunately, again, because of those financial aid rules, we exist within the financial aid package. So it would just come back to kind of the general WSOS pot. We can't like re-award that in a future term.
There's some questions in relation to getting zip codes from a school. So students know that you got to go to your registrar's office or an academic advisor to check if that major is eligible for the scholarship. What does a student do like once they have that information, basically? Like, what do they do with it?
Yeah. Okay. Once you have the zip code, you will go onto our website. Let me pull it up. Go onto that eligible majors page, and then you can search for it right here. So if I have a zip code 03.0103, enter, then I can see my major environmental studies listed right there. So that's why we encourage you, get that zip code. Your advisor will know what that is. Also, anybody in the registrar's office, if you send them an email, just say that you are requesting the CIP code for a given major. They'll get that to you, and you can search for it here. And I did happen to see a question in the chat about like what happens, you know, if I applied with a major, like could it ever become ineligible? And basically, it could for a future cohort, but for your cohort, any major that was eligible when you applied for WSOS, you will be able to pursue that as an eligible major. We basically honor the majors that were deemed eligible when you applied. But that's a really good question.
We got some questions on whether or not submitting an award increase request early could have implications on student scholarship.
Very, very good question. It could, in that you will be receiving higher levels of funding earlier in your college career. So what that could mean for you is that if for some reason, you know, you are approved for your award increase request, you have attended for 3 full academic years, you would have gotten the 3 years of higher funding. If you're still enrolled after your 3rd year, we would maintain your scholarship. You would continue to be eligible, but we would have to award you the lowest kind of tier of funding that you essentially skipped earlier on. So I know that's a little bit confusing, but we can't continue awarding you the higher levels for more than 3 academic years, essentially. So something to be aware of, but if you, let's say you did some dual enrollment credit or like Running Start, for example, and you knocked out a lot of credit as like a high school student, maybe you'll graduate within 3 years. There's no real downside to submitting that award increase request early to get your increased funding straight off the bat.
Sorry, I just had a question and then it left my screen. So I'm trying to track that down.
While
If
you,
oh, sorry, no, Jillian, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, so, you know, I know that we're approaching the end. I know that there are questions that we haven't gotten to. And I would just encourage you, now that you've gotten all of the information, if you still have a question that wasn't answered, please send us an email. The email address that's on our website, but I will also put it in the chat. We'd be happy to answer that question for you. Okay.
I think a great one related to programs is, so if a student isn't able to access their WSOS funding because their cost of attendance met through other means, can they still access the other great things about our scholarship that we offer?
Yes, that is a very good question. If you've exceeded the cost of attendance, you are still eligible in the eyes of our scholarship. That also that wouldn't require a deferment. Like, we would be, if your financial aid office notifies us that you are not eligible to receive our award due to cost of attendance, you don't get the money, but there's no negative repercussion otherwise for your WSOS scholarship. So we still see you as making academic progress, and you have access to all of the programming that Haley outlined at the beginning of the presentation. Is there one more? I think we have room for one more question. I see one that just came in. What year of higher education do students typically submit the award increase request? Generally, it's in your junior year. So if you are a rising college freshman, so say you graduated from high school this spring and you're not transferring in additional credit, then we would expect that sometime either like at the end of your sophomore year, but definitely by the end of your junior year, you would be submitting that award increase request. But that's going to depend on your personal kind of academic history and then also the requirements for your specific major. So something to look into at your college. Okay, with that, since we are just about at time, I am going to start wrapping things up. Let me stop sharing my screen. I want to thank you all for sticking with us. I know that was a ton of information. I hope you don't feel overwhelmed at the end of this. We are here to support you. We are here to answer your questions at any time. And we will continue sharing this information throughout the year when it's there's more context. So you don't need to remember the renewal process. Just remember that you're going to get emails about it in the spring. So make sure that info@lawopportunityscholarship.org is a safe sender. We will share the slides and the recording probably in a few days once we get the link and have it uploaded. That's it. So I am going to go ahead and say good night. Thank you all so much and congratulations again.
Good night.